From snake discovery to Brian Barchuk and all the reptile zoos around the globe, I'm going to show you the top 5 reptile rooms in the world. The animals at this place are absolutely insane, and I'm going to show you a bunch of them. I showed up to the Reptarium in March of 2022, and standing out front were Brian and Jay, and they both gave me a great big hug. My expectation was I was going to spend a little bit of time with Brian. He'd hand me a key and hand me off to somebody else to show me around, and then he'd come film with me at the end of the day. What actually happened was Brian spent well over 10 hours helping me film whatever I wanted, and these are the coolest things I saw there.
You can't come to Brian Barchuk Zoo and not look at a two-headed snake. This is a two-headed California king snake, like a regular king snake, except for like 1.5, because it's got 2 different heads in one body. That means that it's got one set of everything, except for it's got 2 brains, 2 different thought processes. Both sides can eat, both sides can see, both sides can smell, and that's something that's very unique amongst these snakes, that normally you don't get them much longer than maybe a few weeks or a few months. As Brian was just telling me, you don't really see these into adulthood very often. There's 3 other ones in the entirety of the US and 1 in Europe. This is one of the rarest snakes that you'll ever find, and I'm holding it in my hands right now. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity and something I'm never gonna forget.
Let me ask you a question. Is it one snake with 2 heads or 2 snakes with one body?
See, that's a great question. I'm gonna say that it's definitely it's 2 snakes with 1 body. That's what we'll say. Yeah. It's got 2 different sets of thinkers, 2 different sets of peepers. Albino American alligator. This is the craziest looking animal that I've ever seen. Probably the coolest one in the entire zoo, and something that, Brian, you said you whisper sweet nothings to her?
I do. I always talk to her, whisper to her to be calm. So there's about 70 of them in the world, right in that number. She's going to eventually get 8 to 10 foot. She is a girl, so females get 8 to 10 foot. Males can get 10 to 12, even sometimes 13 foot. She's going to get a 20 foot by 12 foot long enclosure that we're building for the expansion. And she'll be with me her whole life.
Now this is a Central American boa, and one of the cooler ones because they don't get super big, but this is still a huge animal. I don't know how much she weighs, but if I had to guess, something like 30 or 40 pounds or something like that. Brian, am I close?
About 55 pounds.
55 pounds. One of my dream reptiles, an absolute piggy. This is a New Guinea frill dragon. We've seen them from Australia. They're a little bit bigger, a little bit more red. These guys, a little bit smaller, a little bit more common and more affordable. But at the end of the day, it's a big semi or totally arboreal lizard. They've got these really cool things, really easy to get to eat. And this, you said this was the mean one that someone didn't want anymore?
Someone donated us because they said it was too mean to handle.
So I would put it right here just because that's kind of what we do here. I'm not afraid of this thing biting my ear at all. I'm not afraid of it at all. I'm more afraid of my bearded dragon biting my ear. This is one of the coolest animals ever. Frill dragons, absolutely amazing, Australian or New Guinea. And okay, we'll put you back. This is a 6-banded armadillo and very fond of my hand. We're best friends now. So Brillo is a very Brillo-y type guy. And Brian,
Brillo, come here, buddy. Come here.
How did you get armadillo? How did that even happen?
You know, it was kind of just a weird thing. A guy locally, well, not too local, about an hour away from me or so, produced these guys, and he called me up, and I wasn't looking for an armadillo, but he was like, hey, I've got this really cool pet that I think would be great for your zoo. Let go, Brillo, you silly monkey. And I was like, I never really thought about an armadillo, but when I saw Brillo, I fell in love with him. He sent me videos of him, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is the cutest little thing. And he was only 6 weeks old, so he was about a quarter of this size. And his personality is just so absolutely amazing. And he's really become one of the most favorite animals at the reptile zoo. I mean, literally, people come just for Brillo, and I can understand why, because he's amazing. Come here, bud.
Come here, Brillo. Now, the 6-banded armadillos, these ones come from not here in the US, but they come from South America.
Yep.
And these guys, what's the diet like on something like this?
So they're omnivores, but they're heavily vegetarian. So so they will eat like grubs and stuff like that in the wild, you know, so they're gonna eat some bugs. They're foragers, obviously, but they're gonna eat lots of fruits and vegetables. So in captivity, we give them all kinds of different things like, you know, again, from squash to you know, pumpkin to you name it, but we'll also give them some omnivore diet for like tortoises, right? So they get that little bit, maybe about 2.5 to 3% protein in their diet, and then the rest is gonna be fruits and veggies. And he loves to eat, I mean, you name it, from apples to applesauce to everything. Come on, bud. Come on over, baby. He's just a monster, but he is definitely a cool animal.
Dita, a cow retic, an animal that comes out with not as many spots, right?
Pure white as a baby, and then get the spots as they get older.
something that's really interesting, really cool. One of the, well, the longest snake in the entire world.
That's true.
One of the largest snakes in terms of growth, and she's got a nice little, I think it's a rabbit or something. It's like feels very fuzzy beside my area. So there you go. That is Brian Barchuk. That is BHB. That is the Reptarium.
I've said it before, but Brian's a hero of mine. I was very lucky to call him a friend, and I miss him every single day.
I went all the way to Indonesia for you guys so I could show you the Bali Reptile Park. The number 5 coolest reptile in this park are these Sailpin Dragons. Now, I've always wanted to go to the Philippines to find one of these, and if you hit subscribe right now, you'll see me do that, probably next year. But for now, here in Bali, these are not native. You're not gonna find these out in the forest when we're looking for king cobras and things like that. However, they are a semi-arboreal animal, and they need a water source as well. And there's a bunch of these Sailpin Dragons too, and ants also, which are definitely native here. It's a beautifully planted enclosure, and the thing that I really like about the park so far, even though we're only 5 steps in it, is the fact that these animals look like they're taken care of. They're healthy, but they're not fat. They're not obese, and especially with Sailpin Dragons coming from a similar part of the world, it's the perfect climate. So they can be out in the open, outside all year long. They never have to be taken in. They don't have to have a smaller enclosure, and what you see is what you get. And because there's no bars, you can see right into them and almost touch them. And the way that they kind of look around, it's very dinosaur-esque. There's nothing cooler than a Sailpin Dragon, except for 4, 3, 2, and 1, which we'll get to right now. Number 4 on this list has to be this spitting cobra. Now, we found a spitting cobra earlier in the week, but it didn't look like this, because this is a leucistic spitting cobra. The really cool thing is they're white. They are stark white. There is almost no pigment whatsoever, and they've got that blue eye, which is super cool. So you're gonna find these in the wild, and the really interesting thing about spitting cobras is that they spit at you. They douse you in venom. So they're gonna hood up, they're gonna look super scary, they're gonna look around, and they can move pretty quick. The thing is, if you get too close, you risk getting envenomated. Well, not really. When they throw venom at you, it is completely fine. You wash it off your skin so it doesn't get in any of your eyes or orifices. I highly recommend not sticking venom in orifices, but it will not blind you forever. Now, these snakes don't get very big at all in terms of, well, I guess in comparison to, say, a king cobra. So they do get bigger than the one that we see here and bigger than the one that you see right here that we saw earlier in the week. Just before we move on to the next one, I want to say that it's really cool because it's not a reptile room tour, it's a reptile zoo. My favorite part is that it's big cages. So you're going to see Quint monitors in captivity, and you see people, and they're going to keep them in things like grow tents or even 8x4x4s, and in my opinion, that's really not big enough. You see the natural arboreal behavior of this Quint monitor. It's climbed almost all the way to this enclosure, which if I had to guess, is probably 12 feet high, 10 to 12 feet high. So to be able to do this in captivity is almost not possible unless you're in a zoo setting. And because we're outside, very similar type conditions to what a Quint monitor would have in the wild. They can be out here all the time, experience the exact temperature and humidity are very similar that they would have. So there's really no lights required, no humidifiers. This is what you see, what you get, the closest thing that you're gonna find unless you actually go to its native range. So if you guys watch the channel, you know my fascination with blue-tongued skinks, and I have a couple of these. Now this actually looks like an Australian, not an Indonesian. Just you can tell by the coloration of the forelimbs of it. And also the tongue is a lot bluer, usually on the Centralians or the species that are from Australia. We've got a different blue tongue here. I just really quickly, before we move on, wanted to show you how they're kept here because they're in these really cool kind of cubes, but they're much larger. If I had to guess, they've got to be at least 4 foot by 5 foot. Usually in captivity, we're gonna see these guys in a 4 foot by 2 foot, and even then I get made fun of a lot of the time because people say, oh, it's too big, they're not gonna use the space. These guys out here under natural UVB and the natural humidity, that's where they're from. They're from Indonesia. They're in the natural habitat and they use every bit of the space. So if you have one at home, give it the biggest enclosure that you can afford because it's gonna use all the space if you're keeping it correctly. Number 2, you might be sick of them by now. Every time I visit a zoo, whether it's Barchucks or whoever, I gotta stop and look at the Rhino Iguanas. I am in love with rock iguanas and these guys, which are Rhino Iguanas. Now, these are from not here, definitely. These are from the other side of the world, kind of closer to home. And the cool thing is they're very tame and placid most of the time. Now this guy's got his eye on me, and I've got my eye on him. Now he's got these really cool crests on the top of his head, and the reason that they call him a Rhino Iguana is because he's got these projections on his little snoot there. On his rostrum, that's where you're gonna see these little projections. They're really big animal, basically the size of a Tagu or very similar, but they've got these crazy little iguana feet, which are actually rather large. He's got these chunky little legs as well, and what I love about basically all iguana species is that they are herbivores. I am in love with them, but I can't take this guy home because there are none in Canada. They're a CITES species, and I'm just so jealous that halfway across the world, far away from where they are, there's one right here. And number one, I can't pick just one monitor species, but I'll pick a certain kind of monitor species. The Arboreal monitor species here. So we've got blues, we've got greens, we've got all sorts of tree monitors, and we're kind of close to their native range, but I just think that they're super cool because most monitors will use their tail kind of to whip you or defend themselves. These animals don't. They'll actually protect their tails because they're prehensile. In order to stay in the trees, they need an extra appendage, the same way that a Monkeytail Skink or an actual monkey would use their tail. I think that these are really cool because, well, I've got friends. Dion has these in captivity. He's got the green ones. And the blue ones, although more expensive, are basically the same sort of care. They're in the same sort of enclosure with the exact same light, humidity, temperature out in this reptile park. So that just kind of goes to show you the proper way to take care of animals that look as healthy as this is, well, with natural UVB, but between the species, they're all basically the same sort of care. Maybe minimalistic differences because of their native range is a little bit different, but look at the blues of this animal. Look how vibrant it is. Look at the greens on the green tree monitors. All in all, I just can't believe I'm standing this close to them, this close to what their natural habitat would be in this type of temperature and humidity. Number one has to be these blue tree monitors and the greens and yellows, and just, I love all tree monitors. This zoo in Bali was amazing. I remember the trip like it was yesterday, but the part that really bothered me is I couldn't share any of my travels in the moment because I didn't have an eSIM for my phone, and my phone didn't work. Now when I travel, I use today's sponsor, Sailpin, and that never happens to me. I remember touching down in Bali and I couldn't find someone to sell me the right SIM for my phone with the right plan. If only I had an app that I could download and buy a global plan from the app so that I didn't have to buy a new one when I went to Thailand or Taiwan the next week. That is where Sailpin comes in. It's an eSIM. It doesn't actually go in your phone. You download it one time, and then you just choose whatever plan makes the most sense for where you're traveling. If you're going to Thailand, there's a Thailand plan. If you go to a bunch of places in the same region of the world, they have regional plans. I wish I had this in 2022 when I went to these zoos. And Sailpin helps you reduce or eliminate roaming. That was the problem with this trip. I came back and my bill was insane. Now I'll never have that problem again. Plus, if you download Sailpin and it doesn't work with your phone, we just give you your money back. Don't let what happened to me happen to you. Get 15% off select data plans when you go to sailpin.com/reptiles. Sailpin.com/reptiles, and when you use the code reptiles, 15% off select data plans. Walk in the place, it's pretty impressive. It's not the coolest part as soon as you walk in, but going around in a circle here, they've got retail section, kind of like any other store. So you can buy a ball python, or you can buy a bearded dragon or a Brooks king snake, or basically anything you want. And then you go around and they've got a little bit of a gift shop too. So plushies and shirts and whatever else, and then all your supplies too. So it's not just a zoo, and it's not just a gift shop, I guess, but also if you wanted crickets or feeders or whatever, they have that too. So it's your local store. But my favorite part is Adoption Island, because animals that need a home, there's 100 bearded dragons or ball pythons or corn snakes or leopard geckos that are gonna need a home because people buy them and then don't want them anymore. Someone moves off to school or whatever the case is, and these guys will take them in. Snake Discovery will take them in and offer an adoption fee, a very low adoption fee, rather than making a bucket of money and selling them for 150, 200 bucks. It's a small adoption fee. So that is the coolest part to me, but that's not what you're here for. Let's head into the zoo. Okay, so this is the part that you actually want to see. This is the zoo. So you walk out of the retail section and then you walk into a zoo, and this place is impressive. It doesn't look like any other zoo. It's not bars and cages, it's rocks from Universal Rocks, and it looks natural. It looks like a place that, I don't know, like a cave system or something. There's plants on the walls. So we're gonna go through as many of these enclosures as we can. We're gonna ask Ed, we're gonna ask Emily, maybe we can get some of the staff, maybe some of the other influencers, and ask them what their favorite animals are. And then I'll tell you what mine is. So let's get to it. So you walk in the entrance of the zoo and then you turn left and it's tortoises only. I can't even go in here because it's tortoises only. And we've got a sulcata and a leopard tortoise in here. And the interesting part is they have free roam of the entire place. So sometimes you'll just find a sulcata tortoise where a sulcata tortoise shouldn't be, like in an alligator enclosure, well, underneath one anyway. I think that's because the leopard tortoise can't get up this lip, the sulcata can, and therefore it's just like a refuge because the leopard tortoise really likes the sulcata tortoise a lot. I guess maybe the most impressive part, as soon as you walk in, this big snake discovery sign, and then below it, a pond for turtles. So we've got map turtles in here, we've got soft-shell turtles, and that's interesting because normally what you see is sliders and whatever else. You don't see soft-shell turtles as soon as you walk into places, people's homes or whatever. So to me, that's interesting, and they're kind of cool. And it's a huge enclosure, and that's gonna be a theme because all these enclosures are massive. Argentine boas, Phoenix, and Ember. Interesting names, and it makes sense. These are huge Argentine boas. The male is the small one, the female is the big one. And these guys had a devastating fire. Their last house, the last keepers that had them, it was a devastating fire. Most of the snakes died, but these two didn't. So Ember and Phoenix makes a lot more sense now. This is a massive boa. Argentine boas are maybe one of the most beautiful species. I never talk about them on the channel because you never see them. And it's really a disservice to the species. So let's just enjoy this enclosure, see how big it is, see how tall it is, and probably one of the bigger enclosures in the zoo. This animal, although probably 9 feet, maybe something around that size, looks tiny because this enclosure is taller than I am, it's deep enough that I could lay into it, and it's wide too. This is how we should be keeping large constrictors. In my opinion, I think Ed and Emily are knocking this one out of the park, and let's just enjoy these Argentine boas. Behind me, we've got some colubrids. They're in the Drymarchon family, so they are giant colubrids, but seeing crebos and indigo snakes in these enclosures that are so wide, I'm not joking, I could literally lay in them stretched out with my arms above my head and not touch the sides. You never see this, and I think that is so cool, and that's what Snake Discovery is kind of doing here. I'll say it again and again. Giant, realistic enclosures with lots of basking spots, a lot of places to hide, but these snakes aren't out, so let's move over here. A black-headed python. Now, I did a tour of a different zoo, and I got a little bit of flack for not talking about the black-headed python, and I understand your concern, because these guys from Australia are very cool. They are one of the only groups of species, or in the group of species, that don't have heat pits but are pythons. The other one being Woma pythons, which are right below us, are a little bit more common, a little bit cheaper to buy, and probably why they're more common. Very high food drive from both these species. Very large pythons. They're from Australia. And by very large, I mean just like not huge, but larger than a ball python maybe. Basking platforms up top. These guys are, well, the entire day yesterday, looking over, and this black-headed python is not hiding. He's out in plain sight, available for you to look at. And so is the Woma python too. So I think that they're very unique, very interesting. But I think they're cool because they're unique looking, they have the banding, the blackhead has that black head, and it's not something that you see really in any other type of snake. And here we go again. After you're done looking at the black-headed python, after you're done looking at the Woma, you got a whole nother row of these giant enclosures for snakes that really normally don't have enclosures this big. So let's go over a few, and then we'll get to number 3. Well, Vietnamese rat snakes we've got in here. We've got giant hognose snakes in here. The false water cobra is absolutely insane. So it's cool to see big colubrids getting what they actually need in the zoo. One of my favorites, and always will, is Allie. And yeah, I have a Tagu of my own. I get it. She's an Argentine black and white Tagu. And she's got this bumpy little tail, stumpy little tail, I guess is a better word. And she's adorable. And last year we got to play with her quite a bit. And now she's in the zoo, where she belongs, because people need to enjoy her too. Now, Argentine black and white tagus aren't for everybody, of course. These are large animals. They get over 4 feet a lot of the time, and they need a huge enclosure. And that's exactly what she has here. I have an 8 foot by 4 foot by 3 foot enclosure, and this enclosure might even be bigger than that. So I think that she's cool. I think that the story is interesting and unique, and the fact that she's so placid and calm. Last year, just handing her off to Clint, and she just didn't have a care in the world. It was like one of my dogs, except for scaly
and I didn't have to brush her. And the fur wasn't in my couch for weeks.
Ed, what is your favorite animal in your reptile zoo?
Oh, my favorite animal has got to be the green trees. They have always been my favorite. They've always captured my imagination just with how they sit. That's actually two curled up next to each other right now. That's my really dumb male that tries to eat himself every time I feed him, and my girl who he's constantly pestering. We have one more back in there, the sarong female down on the bottom. She's kind of in a weird spot. She's usually hiding behind this wall. But I just love the way they look, the way they curl up in the branches. Look like just anybody who always looks at those always goes, that's a snake that makes you want to have a story.
Addition to the zoo, and something that a lot of places don't have, there's a bull snake just kind of photo bombing me here, is they have a wall dedicated to animals that you can find locally in Minnesota. So fox snakes, western hognose snakes, bull snakes, obviously. Yeah, you're the star of the show, bud. Good for you. I think that's really cool, and this includes venomous snakes too. Did you know you could find venomous snakes in a place where it's -40 in the winter? Now you do. That's right. We have the goofiest named venomous snake ever to exist, but I think it's cool. Timber rattlesnakes are awesome. They used to occur where I live, but they are extinct in that area now. You can find them in parts of the north, sort of east of the US. There's actually a map right here. I don't know why I'm trying to sound smarter than I actually am. And a western diamondback rattlesnake they have too. So this is something that you definitely don't want to have if you're not an expert. This isn't a pet. This isn't a toy. This is something for a zoo with trained professionals. And that's why they're here at Snake Discovery. You don't want to get bit by them. It's a bad day. Well. What do we have? You think I was going to go a whole week without talking about Monkeytail Skinks? No. Monkeytail Skinks are cool. I'm glad the ones that I have. These are actually really little, the ones that they have in the zoo. They're going to grow up and be the largest skink in the world. That's what Monkeytail Skinks are from the Solomon Islands. They, though, have a massive enclosure and something for me to aspire to. To give my Monkeytail Skinks something that is 6 feet tall and 6 feet deep, I don't know how big this thing is, it's freaking huge, is a dream of mine. And I'm watching it in reality right here. Monkeytail Skinks. You're going to have to listen to me talk about them forever. And number two, I can't pick. It's got to be both the reticulated pythons, because having giant snakes in your zoo is a task. These things are massive. Reticulated pythons can sometimes get to 20 plus feet. Now, I don't think that either of these are 20 plus feet, although they're probably pretty darn close, and they are girthy. These are big pythons, something that you wouldn't want to mess with by yourself. Always have a friend to help you out. We saw last week at Retic Fest how many people it takes to wrangle a big python. And these guys are just the same size. Now, I can't see them stretched out, but when they look like a cinnamon bun, the world's largest, scaliest, anyway, you get the point. And the cool thing is, these snakes look tiny in these enclosures. These are maybe the largest enclosures I've ever seen for reticulated python, and they do the same with their berm too. And that's what is important, and I try to drive this home in some of the other videos too. If you have a giant constrictor, don't go bare minimum. Don't put them in a 6-foot enclosure. And if you can go bigger than 8, that's great. But with a reticulated python, they're semi-arboreal snakes, even when they get big. And if people want to tell me they're not, well, look at this. Both of these animals are up on perches. Both of them are off of the ground, and they're on the rock ledges, which are very strong, obviously, because these animals probably weigh 80 plus pounds. I can't pick between these two snakes. They're both number 2. But really what you want to see is number 1, and I think you probably know what number 1 is. Let's just go to the favorite one. We know which one it is, and I think that the coolest part about the enclosure is that there's just a Salata Tortoise in the enclosure. This is my home. I live here. I guess we're cuddling up with Salata Tortoises tonight. And let's go to number 1. Well, actually, Emily and I have the same number 1. Her favorite is this. So let's just let her do it.
I think I've got to say my favorite reptile in the zoo is Rex, our American alligator. Rex, just because of her past, I mean, she was kept in a 4-foot wooden box for 27 years, so she's heavily stunted and has some other health issues as a result. From going from that box to our basement for 8 years, and now in our zoo, she's been with us such a long time, and she's really traveled a journey with us. And she's, I mean, the only animal we have that actually responds to our voice, or my voice anyway, so I can call her over. Rex, Rex, come here. Come on, Rex. Come on. Come on out. Come here. Come on. Good girl. Come all the way. You got it. Good girl. So she and I over the years have developed quite a strong relationship. So yeah, she's definitely my favorite.
I think it's really cool what they did here. They have an enclosure that is huge for this alligator, which was stunted, by the way. You gotta watch Emily and Ed's channel, Snake Discovery. They do the whole story better than I could ever do. But the cool thing to me is that there's a plexiglass tube, and you can just kind of like pop your head up to it, because you feel like you're in the enclosure, because you are. So you have a whole crawl space underneath the land area, and then the water area is in front of you, and you can see her right there, and you can stick your head up. Just all in all, the coolest enclosure in the zoo. My favorite animal in the zoo. The story is beautiful, the animal is beautiful, the overbite is beautiful. Rex, that's how she would say her name, probably. And I think it's really cool that Ed and Emily let me sleep and live in the crawl space, so I'm just gonna go back into my home now. So there you go. That is the Snake Discovery Zoo.
Snake Discovery is a quick 14-hour drive from my front door, but for the next reptile zoo, I gotta get back on a plane and head across the ocean.
And we're in Bangkok today, and I'm gonna take you around Queen Sawapa Memorial Snake Farm, where they do amazing work. We're talking about snake milking to make snake anti-venom. We're talking about veterinary services. We're basically saving snakes and researching them, and I wanna show you all the most deadly snakes in the world that maybe you have never heard of. Dave, I have a bone to pick with you. You took me all across the world to find snakes that I've never seen before.
Yep.
And what the heck is this? You flew me all the way to Thailand to see a western hog snake. Is there anything else here, or is that it?
I was hoping you wouldn't notice that that's all that's here.
Anyway, you're out of this video now. Number 5 on our list is the Sahara horned viper. Now this is a viper, so they've got similar type of venom to other types of vipers, which is very interesting. Now obviously, on this list, we're gonna talk only about snakes that you probably didn't know existed, and all of them are gonna be hot, which means that they're venomous. Now these guys are from the Middle East. Now you have these, what Dave called super ocular scales. I think what they are is they're horny scale. They're horned scale. No, Adam, that's not what they're horned scales. That's what they look like. They look like little horns projecting above its eyes. Nobody really knows what they're there for. There is a whole bunch of theories, whether it's for keeping sand under their eyes, or it's for breeding purposes, or it's for to make Dave question what they are. Nobody really knows, but at the end of the day, they're one of the coolest looking things. To me, it looks almost like an Animorphs or something, like it's turning into something else, like bat ears on its head. Okay, I'm just kind of rambling because I just thought it was cool and you should see it. Let's move on to number 4. Now, number 4 is this Malayan Crate. Now, they do occur in many places in Southeast Asia, including right here in Thailand. Now, we found one of these in an abandoned amusement park, which is the coolest thing in the world. There's a video right here, if that video has come out yet. And I think that these guys, although very interesting to look at, aren't as cool as the all black ones that we found in Bali, in my opinion. Those ones were all black. These ones are banded. Now they're not a banded crate, which are very similar, I guess. Now these guys, they're going to be eating things like rodents. They're going to be nocturnal. They're going to be on the ground. And just overall, if you're going to get bit by one of these, make sure you're sitting in a hospital bed. And even then, I think it's something like 80% mortality rate. So this is not a snake to mess with. This is not one you want to get bit by, but it's something you probably never heard of, and one of the coolest ones that I've found here at the snake farm in Bangkok. And right behind me here, we've got a white lip viper. Now, we saw these guys in Bali too. We found them in the wild, a bunch of them. And what's interesting about them is they're very different than a lapid. So things like cobras that we're seeing a lot of here in crates and things like that, these animals, because they're vipers, they have a different type of toxin. And this type of toxin is going to not really attack your organs as much as it's going to attack the area around the bite. So it's going to be painful, it's going to bleed, it's going to swell, and then they're going to start seeing things like necrosis. And basically what that is it's killing the tissue around. So when you get bit, you want to take a look at the swelling, you want to draw lines around it and see how big it's growing. And as you're doing that, get the heck to the hospital immediately. Now you're going to find these guys in the trees, you'll find them on the ground, that's where I found one. And then Dave found one in a tree, and they're going to be nocturnal. So one of the cooler snakes here, one that you probably never heard of before, very different than the white-lipped python, white-lipped vipers. So now we're going to do something really, really cool. I'm going to put some boots on because they're bite-proof, and then, so if you look right behind me there's a wild Dave Kaufman filming, I'm probably ruining his shot, but there's a wild Dave Kaufman there filming a king cobra that was in a basket. There's actually 2 of them in there, and then right in front of me, there's this bush. And I jokingly asked, is there king cobras inside this bush? That's 3 feet from my bits, and there is. So there's a sleeping cobra here, there's 2 cobras over there, and there's a Dave Kaufman over here.
And I am the more dangerous of all 3. Oh, there's one over here.
Well, you smell the worst, that's for sure.
And so I'm going to stop talking so that Adam can film what he has to film. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you for your time, Dave. So the reason that we keep these...
Look at that
okay,
Cobra
great.
right there. That Cobra is just...
See that coming. So the reason that we have cobras in this enclosure, which is big by the way, this enclosure I would say is probably 20 meters long, so it's obviously huge for these animals that can get 12 foot plus. It's the biggest venomous snake in the world. Now being in front of one of these in the wild is one thing. That is super duper cool, but you can get away from them. You can bounce back if you wanted to, but in here, we're in this enclosure, we're locked in, there's no way out, and if one of these things starts to jump at me, I'm jumping on Dave's shoulders because he's over 12 feet high, so I won't be able to get bit from up there. Dave?
Yeah, you can totally do that. I wasn't paying attention to what you were saying, but I'm just mesmerized on those snakes. I hope you weren't saying that you were going to do something like jump on my shoulders or anything, because anything but that, well, I guess anything but that and a couple of other things that I can think of, totally off limits. Don't jump on my shoulder.
You know, I walk away from everybody and I play it cool in front of them, but at the same time, like, to be that close to an animal that can strike incredible distances, that's that big, that potent of venom, and each one of those snakes has enough venom to kill every single person in this park right now. So it is an incredible experience. It is safe what we did. We didn't go reckless or anything. We have trained professionals with us, but at the same time, there's only a certain amount of safety that you can have when you're inside of an enclosure with 3 king cobras, and especially when they're not all in the same place. So something very interesting, incredible venom dumps, which I hope that we get to see a little bit later from maybe one of the other species of snake, but there's nothing like a king cobra, and that was a really cool experience. But there is a ton of other snakes here, so let's go check out some of these other like crazy, most ridiculous venom snakes. Big eye vipers. Now there's a reason they're called big eye vipers, and that's because they're green and arboreal and have big eyes. That's why they're called that, especially in the adults. You're gonna notice that they have these giant, these massive eyes. They're used for seeing, like mammals and you and I. But I don't think these guys eat carrots. I don't think that's how they got their eyes the way that they are. I think that they eat things like rodents. They're gonna eat things like birds. They're gonna be up in the trees, and that is why you see them like that right now. Now they are cohabbed here. It's something that I wouldn't really recommend cohabbing most snakes, but with this species in particular, they do really well in pairs. And of course, at the snake farm here, they are milking these guys. They are making the anti-venom from the milkings of the venom from these guys because they are endemic here in Southeast Asia, in Thailand, so people do get bit here, and we need a way to save these people's lives. Now, of course, the big eye snake maybe not going to kill you, but if you don't seek medical attention, it's going to hurt you in a bad, bad way.
I think what makes a great reptile room great is the experience you have in it. And obviously all of these are commercial facilities, places that aren't in somebody's house like you or I might have. But some great honorable mentions. Daffy's Reptiles has a great room. There's a whole tour you can watch on the channel. I just went to MJ's place, Trap Talk, in San Diego, California. That video came out last week. But the greatest experience I've ever had in a place filled with reptiles wasn't a room at all. It was a park where the monitors acted like squirrels do in North America. This is Lumpini Park in Bangkok, Thailand, one of the most populated cities on earth, full of hustle, bustle, and cars. But right in the middle, this place you can't even fly a drone, they have the most amazing experience getting close to animals that you'd never get to do anywhere else.
See?
How'd that feel?
It felt like he was just offering me his tail and saying, hey, will you pet my tail? Well, look at this. That was your tail whip, buddy?
I think you hurt his feelings, Dave.
I think I did. Sorry, buddy.
I am about 2 feet from this lizard right here, and we were just talking to another, I think his name was Jerome, that one. This one is Bertha, obviously, and as Dave said, eating well in this park. Now here's the thing, if you keep a monitor, you're probably gonna keep one in an 8 foot by 4 foot enclosure. The problem is this animal is at least 6 feet long. If I laid beside this thing, it would dwarf me. And if I had to guess the weight on it, it's 7 or 8 cats in weight if I had to guess. So you can't just keep this thing in an enclosure where it can't move. If you look at this lake, the entire lake is gonna be full of these things. So yeah, sure, you could cohab them if you had this giant enclosure, but keeping something in an enclosure that you can buy from an online retailer or something that isn't custom made isn't going to cut it for these animals. So the number one thing that I wanted to talk about is size. The fact that an animal is 6 feet long means that they can't be kept in an 8 foot or even 12 foot enclosure. And you want to keep them somewhere where they have natural UVB if possible. And if you don't have that option, you need to have UVB all over the place. It would cost you a fortune to have these guys in a room or something like that because the UVB has to be close enough to them and they need places to climb, and they need a place in the water as well. So just, I guess what I'm trying to say here is there's no possible way, in my opinion, that you can go to a store, buy an enclosure, or even if you build something, it's got to be big enough that it's kind of like a child's room. So the number one thing is size. The second reason why I think giant monitors are not right for you and they kind of suck is, well, they cost a lot. The affordability is just not there.
In my travels, I've been to the coolest jungles in the world too. If you'd like to see the top 5 coolest jungles all over the world to find the coolest reptiles, let me know in the comments section below.